Hello, peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny.
Hello.
We're the Fright Club and this is a brand new episode of Monday Night Frights. On tonight's show, we're talking about Julia Ducournau's amazing debut feature film, Raw.
Merde.
And we're back with episode 5.3 of Monday Night Frights. Tonight talking about the amazing French film from 2016/17. It's Julia Ducournau's Raw. Danny, and just as we start this episode, this is completely raw to us because we haven't actually spoken about the film yet, so this is going to be amazing.
We haven't even had our usual what do you think? Nope. We've had nothing. Nope. We're going in raw,
completely raw.
I watched it for the first time today.
Me too.
I hadn't seen it before, and yeah, really enjoyed it.
Amazing. I adored it. We'll get into the deeper details of the film as the episode progresses. But I absolutely loved it. First time watch for me as well. I had heard about the film obviously when it was first released. It was released in 2016. It got its debut at Cannes, and then it didn't actually get a general release until early 2017. Yeah. So, but I mean, as soon as it was released, everyone was raving about it and saying this was going to be a sort of game changer. And
I mean, a lot of the narrative and stuff has been done before, but the style and all of it, and it's not that it's like extreme. Like, it's not like we've kind of seen it all before, but it's just done in such a way that you're like, I like this. I really like this. And of course, I really like it. And you know what? I really picked up on about this movie.
Yeah.
The blue hues. The blue hues.
We haven't spoken about blue hues in a while.
Many lovely blue hues in this movie. It's very it reminds me of It Follows and that sort of, in terms of just that kind of layering of blue over the whole thing.
It actually, as I was watching it this morning, which, you know, just before you go any further, I wouldn't advise watching this film too early in the morning, and I wouldn't advise watching it when you're eating something. So I specifically made myself wait until the film was over before I ate anything, because there was a lot of talks around in this film about how extreme it was, and you know, all the imagery and blah blah blah, and it was hard to watch. And you know, it wasn't actually that bad, really.
You know, I suppose if you're seasoned horror gore fans like ourselves, it's not really. It's pretty, I would say, standard. It's very real. I would say a lot of the kind of gore and stuff, it's very, you know, it's not like Tarantino-esque where it's just spurting all over the place, but it's, you know, a lot of the detail is medical, and I suppose it's because they are, you know, it's a veterinary university, it's a hospital university, and you're going to see stuff like that. And you've obviously got the jars of stuff, guts and wee animal live specimens and all that sort of thing,
vivisections and all that bullshit.
The most, like, you okay? I think the creep out moment, or the gross out moment for me, was when there's a part where the camera's panning through a party, and there's this couple it looks like they're leaning in to kiss, but then instead of kissing, the girl licks the dude's eyeball, and I was just like, that's fucking,
as you do, like, you know,
that's fucking anything to do with eyeballs or touching eyeballs or licking eyeball, and she's just like licking this dude's eyeball, and I'm like,
oh yeah, fuck that,
vile. So I mean, give me blood and gore any day, but go anywhere near the eyeballs, nah, mate.
So of all the sort of visceral images that you see in this film, and
some did get his eye licked.
Blah 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 blah.
Does not do it for me.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, you're right. I remember you saying in a previous episode you don't like anything to do with eyeballs.
Don't like anything to do with touching or probing around eyeball. Even watching somebody put a contact lens or take contact lens out. No.
Well, funny you should say it reminded you a bit Falls. Actually, I made that comparison as well when I was watching it. Just the style of it, the aesthetic of it, the kind of even the pacing of it was kind of similar.
Now there was another film I want to compare it to, but I'll wait until we're kind of talking about the scene. But it happened. Something happens in the film. When it happened, I went, "Fuck, that's just like." I will reveal all whenever we get to talking about.
Put your finger up and be like, "Oh, here we go, here we go."
We have a moment. It honestly, like, it just happened. And I went, "Is this hearkening to something else, to an 80s classic?" It's not actually hearkening to an 80s classic, but it was just I got that vibe whenever it happened. I was like, "Oh."
Interesting. So this is the debut feature film from French filmmaker Julia Ducournau, who, for me personally, one of the most exciting voices in cinema at the minute. I just recently watched Titan, which was her second feature film.
I'm excited to watch more of her stuff now that I've seen this. I'm kind of like, okay.
Titan's amazing. It is just blew me away. It's a fantastic film. I wrote a review for it on our website, www.thefrightclubni.com. If anybody wants to go and read that, I'll put a link in below. You can do that. Fantastic film, won the Palme d'Or last year. I can say last year now because it's 2022. You see that? So, but yeah, really exciting voice, and I'm really excited to see what she does next. But I've been wanting to watch Raw for quite a few years, basically ever since it came out. I don't know why I didn't get around to watching it, and I'm kind of glad now that I've kind of waited, because it just felt like it was real satisfaction watching it today after it'd been out for a few years and having just watched Titan a couple of weeks ago. I will say, after watching Titan, coming to watch Raw, I was very nervous.
Yeah,
I was just kind of like, fuck, I know what it's about. Well, I obviously I knew it was about cannibalism, blah blah blah, but I'd seen images from it. I knew it was very visceral, and I was sitting and I was genuinely on the edge of my seat, and I was like, fuck. But I was trying to keep myself busy a wee bit. I was like, I had stuff on in the background. I was still focusing on the film 100%, but at any point I could go, oh, hang on, I just need to pause this a second and go and do something. Yeah. Do you ever get like that sometimes when you watch, like?
Sometimes when you're watching this film, for me, I was just like, I'm focused on this. Like, I didn't want to miss anything, and even though this is in French and you've got the subtitles going, I was still like engrossed. Even sometimes the thing with the copy I was watching, the subtitles were sometimes too light against whatever was in the background, so you kind of missed bits of what was maybe being said. But that didn't even really matter, because again, excellent performances from the actors in this, and the story so driven by obviously her relationships to different characters, but then her own internal desires to eat flesh, but also resist that urge to eat flesh, and everything else that kind of comes along with that. And it's just, what a ride!
It was absolutely an amazing film. And I didn't mean to detract away to say that I wasn't focused on it, and I was 100% focused, but I was just tense. I was constantly on edge, and I suppose that's what you kind of want from a film. You want to be on edge. You want to have some sort of reaction to it, is what I'm saying.
I think for this one as well, because we kind of, like, I didn't know much about it going in, but I knew it was about her becoming a cannibal. But the cannibalism itself doesn't really start until like a good near halfway through the film. Like, there's a lot of tense moments where you think maybe something's going to happen, or there's going to be some major turning point. And yes, there is that, but there's so many like wee moments before that where you think something bad's going to happen, but it's not really that bad. Like, don't get me wrong, the hazing ceremony at that school is very illegal. It is awful, but it's nothing compared to the final big moment where it turns, and that moment is just kind of, I did not see that come. I didn't think that's how it was going to happen, and then it does, and you're like, what?
It's great, because that scene, I think I know what you're talking about, that scene, that moment, which kind of turns the film into something a wee bit different. You know, it really does open the film up to being more than just about this girl who becomes kind of addicted to human flesh. But it's interesting that you said about the subtitles. Obviously, it's a French film, English subtitles. You could, I think, you could watch this film with no subtitles. That like that's what makes a great film. Like the way that she directs and tells the story, and everything that's in there is there for a reason. And you don't. I honestly think you could watch it without subtitles, and you would 100%. Still know 90% of the story.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, there's wee bits of dialogue and stuff I wasn't able to read because of the lighting against the subtitles. And it didn't matter. Like I was still able to fully follow along with the story and still understand, you know, what that character meant to that character, what the dynamic was between characters. Yeah, just really solid storytelling with tropes that we're used to, but with just little twists here and there that keep you hooked and keep you drawn in.
So the plot we've spoke about it's about this. She's only supposed to be 16, I think, or 17.
She's a prodigy. She's kind of obviously got there a bit earlier, and then there's that one dickhead professor who's like, I don't care for your type.
I know.
There's others out there who could be benefiting from this, but you get above them because you're a prodigy, and you're like, fuck up.
I would rather see
the wee girl alone.
Yeah, than the other people. But I think that is actually an important part of the story as well, because it's all about transformation and exploring yourself and stuff. But she basically goes to vet school. She's a vegetarian. Her parents are vegetarians. Her sister's a vegetarian who we meet. And then
at the start, whenever she's in like the canteen with her parents and she's just got mashed potatoes, and the like canteen lady's like, no protein.
I know.
And you're just like, what a weird way to ask. Like, do you want any meat?
Fucking dinner lady pushing her agendas here.
No, bro. And then sneaks a wee meatball into her mashed potatoes.
Scumbag. What a scumbag.
Just rude. But yeah, that wee opening just to kind of set up the whole idea of being a vegetarian thing. I was like, okay.
And then so she goes to vet school, and then obviously she gets hazed. She ends up eating raw meat, and that kicks off this journey of her becoming a cannibal.
A rabbit kidney. She eats raw rabbit kidney that she takes a reaction to, and the reaction at first is quite like, it's like eczema, like extreme allergic reaction eczema she has. That scene where she's like scratching herself raw is again intent. Like any scenes that go on, there's quite actually a few scenes of her like reacting in bed to like different stuff. Like that's obviously like a physical stimuli where she's like scratching herself raw, and then she has like kind of that mental breakdown where she feels like she's being beat by people outside of her bed.
Later on, it's like she's got the DTs basically, where she's trying to come off, you know, the meat, and then she's freaking out because she's hallucinating all this stuff, and she's freaking out and sweats and all that. Great film. I mean, Justine's played by an actress called Garance Marillier, I think her surname is.
Yep.
And she's in Titan as well. She has a small but important part in the film. But she was also in a short film of Ducournau's a couple of years before this. And I was watching a video of the director talking about Raw and talking about her relationship with the young actress. And she said that she's got this amazing relationship with her, that she feels like she's a younger sister, and she's almost like an extension of her. So, and I think you can see that in this film.
I was going to say interesting because of the sister relationship.
I think you can see it in the film just because like you have to have a lot of trust between a filmmaker and your actors, and especially when it's a character study like this, which this film is really about, this character study. And she goes on such an intense journey, a physical and mental journey, and it's an emotional journey as well. And I think you can see that performance. She's fucking amazing in this. Like
so good. The lot of like her, and then you've got the sister Alexia, and then even the roommate Adrian, who I really like him because he is, you know, he's obviously her mate, but he also doesn't really know her, so he's sort of trying to help her, but at the same time he's like, you know what, if you're not going to take my help, then fuck you. And he goes off and does his own thing, and he is a bit of a, like, he's not a dick, but like that whole scene where she goes to like walk in to ask him to help bring her mattress back up after all the mattresses have been thrown out the accommodation during the hazing, and she's trying to get it back up, and she opens the door and he's getting his dick sucked, and he's just kind of like, do you mind? You know, he's still obviously selfish in that regard, but he's the one that comes and like shows her the video later on of her when she's like really drunk. And I feel like he ultimately is the victim of the whole thing, because he's really the only person. Like, yes, the sister and her do get on at times, but then also other times where they don't. Like, there's a real love-hate, whereas he's the only one who has genuinely tried to be nice with her and tried to help her and stuff, and have genuine conversations with her and stuff. And
he's going through his own stuff as well.
Yeah.
You know, there's that scene where he sort of shouts at her because he's saying that he's gay and that he's struggled with this for so long. Why would he kiss her? And why would, you know what I mean? So he's clearly going through stuff himself, as most people of that age are. They're always trying to find themselves. Excuse me. But Garance Marillier is fantastic in this. Absolutely amazing performance. And she's just got that look about her, like she's kind of she's a young girl, and especially at the start of the film, she's quite shy and just normal. She's just a very normal girl, and then by the end of the film, she has transformed, and I feel like she just put so much into this performance, and she absolutely blew me away. I think she's going to be a massive, massive star.
There's that moment I said about your woman like in the boy's eyeball at the party. It's that particular scene when the camera's moving towards Justine through the crowd, and just the look on her face as she's sort of like observing everyone at the party and looking at them like their food. And that for me is the moment where you see the biggest change in her. And what a way to completely change the perception of a character through just sitting there and looking. Absolutely fantastic.
You know, it was a very small budget. It was only 3.8 million, and it didn't make its budget back. Only made about 3.5 million back, so just under its budget made back at the box office. But critically, it was, you know, mostly across the board, everyone was giving it, you know, 9s out of 10s and 8s out of 10s, and that's what you really want. You know, obviously it's a business, you want to make money, but at the end of the day, you know, as long as your peers think it's a good work and it's appreciated for what it is. And, you know, I haven't seen anyone saying negative about it on social media and the channels that I would use for films and stuff. I haven't seen any sort of negative reviews, and even people that maybe don't watch that kind of stuff, you know, some of them would say, "Oh, it was a bit hard to watch at times" or whatever. But you know, it's still an amazing film. And apparently, at the debut screening, I think it was in Cannes, or was it maybe at one of the other festivals? It might have been Toronto, the TIFF festival. I'm not sure. It was one of those early festivals. Apparently, there was a couple of people that fainted out of the, you know, like 2 or 3 people out of the 1,000 people in the audience fainted, and that got a lot of, you know, news and a lot of traction at the time. So obviously that kind of helped it gain an audience. But yeah, it's you know, you would faint if you were watching it at that time, because I think it was part of like the midnight show, whatever they call it, in Toronto, or one of those festivals. They have like a midnight film, and you've been watching films all day, and then you start seeing scenes where a girl's eating her own sister's finger, and you're like, "Fuck me!" Jesus, this is a bit rough. Like that was a rough scene. That was a rough scene.
The scene. It's that whole the kind of like lead up to that moment, because I was sort of waiting, and then when it happens, you're like, "Fuck, is that like that's just happened, hasn't it?" And then it sort of has, but it all kind of erupts, because they're kind of having this kind of nice sisterly moment. Bit weird. Don't know that I'd let, you know, my brother wax my pubes for me, but they're having a moment. They're having a sort of a bonding moment. But it just kicks off.
I like how you said about, you mentioned it there. She's giving her sister a bikini wax. Yeah. And you literally see it, like they don't, like you see it happening.
Doesn't hold back. Yep. They show you a
close up of the hairs being pulled out. You see it.
It's when it's stuck, and you see her pulling, and the skin's pulling with it, and you're just like, oh.
You just see. I just felt like I was going to get like a Cronenberg moment there, where, you know,
I was waiting for the nails come off. The skin. I was waiting for the skin to be peeled away, and then she goes to get the scissors, and I was like, see if she fucking cuts her or something, and then it doesn't. It goes.
I think that's the moment where I was like, oh, what's that? Does the washing need on? I might have to pause this for a second, because I was just like, we were building up to one of those big scenes, and we did eventually get it, and it wasn't as bad, but it was still unsettling. And I thought, oh my god, she's going to go in here with the scissors, and it's just going to be fucking horrible. Yeah. But you know, it was an amazing scene, and that was the scene I was talking about, by the way, that transformed.
Yeah, that's the transformation scene. It's even the fact that you get the dog going over, and she kind of batting the dog away because she knows what he's going to do, and then
Danny, the less said about the dog, the better. I was very upset.
Every time.
Whenever I heard that the dog was put down.
I was quite happy because I was kind of like, oh, like whenever we first meet the sister is when they're at the hazing after party, and she's like walking through and everybody's, you know, taking eckies and dancing around and drinking and getting their ditties out and all the rest. And then she finds her sister who's like twerking on top of like a platform, and then they go his sister's like, oh, I need fresh air, and they go to walk outside, and she calls the dog over, and I was just like, oh, doggo,
hello.
And then I was like, hold on a second, this is a spoopy thriller.
This is a horror film. This dog's not going to last the end.
The dog's not going to, and it's even the fact that you then see the dog later on that really got me. I was like,
oh, I on the I know
the autopsy table when they're doing the animal autopsies in class, and the dog's there, and it's just like,
I know,
so grim,
so hard to watch. But thankfully, we didn't see anything too bad.
No, but what about whenever her sister's like arm deep in a cow?
I know.
It's just, and the horse being like
that was another horrible scene, because I hate. Even though the horse, nothing bad happened to it, that was they were trying to help it or whatever.
Yeah,
it was just like
it's still an uncomfortable watch, and even the fact that it's like over that scene, it's not the sound of a horse breathing heavy, it's a man breathing heavy, which I was kind of like, this is weird. Like it's even more unsettling because the breathing is a person rather than a horse.
Johnny, I'm going to throw out a little hot take for you.
It's
not a hot take at all. It's basically the theme of the film. Yes, it's about cannibalism, but obviously I think personally it's a pretty obvious thing. Is the theme is that humans are animals too.
Yeah.
And you know, humanity is feral, humanity is animalistic. There's a lot of connections between the animal kingdom and our own society.
There's the one bit that really where I was kind of like, she is an animal, and it's not even Justine. That was, again, she's animalistic during that party scene I talked about, but it's Alexia, where she has a moment where they're standing waiting. So Justine's eating her finger, and she's like, come on, we have to go talk. And she takes her to the side of a road. And she's like, what?
Just eating my finger.
She's just eating Alexia's finger, you know, for the crack, and straight to hospital and all the rest. And they go to the side of the road, and they're kind of down this way embankment, but Alexia is like hunched over, like watching for traffic like this, and her eyes are constantly darting. And I was like, a dog would. She's a predator waiting for something to come by for her to run out, and then she runs out in front of the car. And this is the moment I talked about at the start that made me go, ping, that reminds me of something. So she runs out in front of the car, and we don't actually see the accident really happen.
No.
But Justine runs out and is sort of checking on Alexia to be like, what the fuck? Like, what'd you do that for? And hugging her and stuff. And then she goes, come on, we got to get over here. And Alexia starts like tucking into the dude's like brain. And that, for me, see that moment, that was a Teen Wolf moment. You know, when the dad is standing, and it's like, it's a family thing.
Yeah.
For me, I was just like, did they just Teen Wolf us?
Basically, yeah, they did. Yeah, it was a shock in the sense that you now know that it's something in the gene.
Yep, it's a fact. And then when we get, obviously, we'll just go spoilers, going straight to the end when you find out that Ma's at it too, and the dad's basically just like all these years been cutting little bits from his chest
or letting her feed on him one way or another. And I love how he's got the wee lip.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously whenever they first kissed, she bit her lip like Justine does to your mom.
Justine bites your mom whenever they're doing that weird like paint
thing. Yeah.
Which weird. I was kind of like,
what's going on here?
I don't think that's okay. I don't think that's all right. You know.
But yeah, that's her sister is fucking brilliant in this, and that moment, I was just like, what the fuck? So it's actually like a disease or whatever you want to call it, and it reminded me a little bit of Ginger Snaps.
I was going to say there's a lot of you could do Ginger Snaps comparisons a bit.
I think Ginger Snaps is a wee bit more on the nose when it comes to it's the puberty and all that sort of stuff and transforming into womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
But there could be comparisons made to that as well from this film about her, because she's only 16, so she's kind of becoming sexually active. She said that she was a virgin, didn't she, at the start of the film?
And she says about whenever she confronts Adrian about, how's that speak to a woman you've deflowered?
Yeah.
And then that's when he erupts to kind of be like, I'm gay. Again, that's another great moment just in terms of like character development and stuff and the relationship between them and stuff. I thought that was another like just really touching moment for the characters amongst all of the meat eating and sisterly cannibalism.
There's a lot going on here, and
it's the auto cannibalism bit when she's trying to control her urges when her and Adrian do ride each other, and she like is trying to bite him, and he's kind of like, stop it, and then she bites into her own arm, and you just see the blood like running down her chin and down her arm, and
there's a moment intense. There's a scene we spoke about the scene when you find out that her sister is a cannibal as well, and that she's sort of been trying to suppress it. She's kind of learned how to control it in a sense, and she's doing that thing for Justine. But then there's a scene later on which again kind of flips the film up a little bit, is whenever she's doing her sort of sexy dance in the mirror, and she's kind of it's quite a sexual performance that she's doing, but she's looking at herself. She's almost doing it to herself, and it's almost like she is addicted to her own flesh as well. And then that's actually before she has sex with Adrian, and she ends up eating herself because she has to. Or it's a climax, that's the climax for her. It's not actually the orgasm. It's it's the eating herself. And there's during that sex scene, there's an amazing little movement that she does where she's on top of him and she can't control herself and she has to bite something. So it's just a few seconds before she does it. That's fantastic fucking acting. And she just goes ahead and bites herself, and it's
again animalistic movements, like really quick, jittery. Like it's not really sexy in any way. It's pure, just animalistic. And you can tell he's really not like he's not really having a good time until she kind of throws herself forward and bites into her arm. It's I mean, just everything, even like towards the end when Alexia and her reaction to stuff and their whole dynamic is great. Fantastic. What about the scene where they just decide to pee on a roof?
Well, I was just about to say that this film, you spoke about it a wee bit briefly about when we talked about bikini waxing. A lot of people would watch this film and think it's a sexual film. A lot of people would watch it and either be turned on by it, by the sort of the weirdness, the sexual connotations with it, but it's not really.
No.
It's in a way it's kind of saying that the female body, like there's a wee bit of nudity in this film, especially between the two sisters. It's not weird at all. It's just they're sisters. They've grown up together.
Exactly. That's whenever that happens, because whenever they first go into the after party at the start, and one of the guys going around taking pictures of everybody, and he kind of gets groups of girls together, and he's like, "Oh, slut it up," and they all get their daddies out and stuff. And there's kind of that moment. But I think there's a point in this movie where all the other characters, all the ones going through the rush week, they're all going through their rush week, and they're trying to, party as much as possible and have as much sex. They're doing the whole university thing. But whenever Justine gets involved, she almost either tries to draw back from it all, but then when she starts to give herself to it, it becomes too much. It's no longer fun. It's no longer sexy either, because it's got to a point where people are grossed out by it. And I think there's a lot of that kind of goes on, like whenever she tries to get involved with the paint mixing thing, her her desires, she can't control them, and she ends up biting your dude's lip, taking a chunk out of it, which she then spits out in the shower later, and then decides to have another wee munch later.
It's like caught in her tooth or something when she's showering. It's just like, oh, keep that for later.
Just a wee.
But yeah, I just think the whole sort of sexual scenes in it, you know, I could see how they could be taken as being sexual, but I don't think they are. I think, you know, it's just normal, you know. Even at the start when they haze, you know, they're getting them out of their rooms. A lot of the girls are wearing just like their panties and, you know, or like a wee nightgown. They're not wearing a lot of clothes. But there's nothing sexual about it at all. They're just kind of running around in their panties and they're just doing this because it's normal.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really normal. It's fucking terrible. Like, for anybody watching this, if anybody went to veterinary school, did shit like this actually happen?
Did shit go down? Did they make you eat raw rabbit kidney with a shot?
That's a bit weird.
It's wild. It's when you hear about like all those hazing stories and stuff, and you're just kind of like, what the fuck? Like,
I know.
No.
Fucking wise up, like.
Wise up. Leave each other alone. Jesus Christ.
I know. But yeah, so this was Mark Commode's favourite film of 2017. And as I said, everyone loved it. It was a fantastic film. It won a couple of awards. I think it won the Méliès d'Or, which is the award that you win as a tribute to filmmaker Georges Méliès, who, you know, very famous illusionist. He was the first person to sort of introduce special effects into cinema way back in the day. He did all those like really early illusions on camera. So it won that award, and obviously it won a few other awards as well. But you know, it's an amazing film. I really enjoyed watching it today, and we spoke a couple of times about different scenes there. One of my favorite scenes, and it comes back to the fact that humanity is feral and humans are not so different from animals. There's a couple of scenes that I'm going to mention here that kind of puts all that into perspective. There's a scene where Justine and Adrian are eating, when she first eats the pork sandwich after she's been force-fed this kidney. She doesn't really want to eat it, but she ends up eating it anyway. And there's a trucker that comes over, and that was a bit creepy. And he starts talking to Adrian, and he says something like, "Oh, we've got pigs in there. Pigs are very human, like DNA wise. They've got, you know." So that's sort of dropping the, you know, the foreshadowing there to what the theme of the film is. But then near the end, whenever Justine and Alexia have their fight, which is crazy. What a scene that is! They fight in front of everybody.
Nuts scene. It's just when they like interlock their arms, but they're like biting onto each other's arms, and then whenever the boys come and like get them off each other, but have them held like by using like fabric around the neck, and you're kind of like, what?
Well, that's what I was going to say there.
If they hadn't broke free, what were they going to do? Like
that was basically another nod to the fact that one of the themes is that humans are just like animals, because they're basically controlled like a rabid dog would be controlled. You know, like you would put a chain around a dog's neck and you would hold it, and they're actually on all fours as well at this point. And they're being pulled back like this, and then when they eventually break free, they just go together and they walk off together, and it's basically, it's like we are pack, you know. It's that sort of animalistic mentality that, you know, wolves or, you know, packs stick together. And
despite their differences, they have to be together. And
then they also they help each other heal, you know. So they lick each other wounds basically. Metaphorically, they don't actually lick each other's wounds. I'm sure they would if they
put a plaster on, and it's
I love that theming, and I love, you know, I just love when you look into it a little bit more. There's a lot more going on here, and you know, I loved the cast. I loved the main girl as Justine, and her sister was amazing as well. And as you said, Adrian was very good. He sort of came in as the third wheel, really. And interestingly enough, Justine, Alexia, and Adrian are the three characters from Titan as well. So that must be a wee thing that Ducournau likes. I don't know if she has a some sort of connection to
main
those
players.
names. Yeah, to those names. Not the actors, just the characters.
Oh,
names.
The actual character names are the same. Oh, okay.
Although I will say your girl Garance Marillier, she is in Titan and she plays a girl called Justine, and she also in the short movie that she did before this with Ducournau, her character was called Justine as well. So it's interesting. I don't know.
Lazy writing or
no, I like it, man. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. But yeah, so I love that scene at the end whenever the two sisters are kind of sort of like dogs, basically on their knees, and they're being pulled back. But we've got to mention the opening scene, which we did kind of mention because we talked about the car accident.
Yeah.
But like, what an opening scene! Whenever something opens like that, kind of similar to It Follows, it's just a scene with no context, and it ends with a sort of like what the fuck type moment. You're kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? And there's no context to that scene at all. If you were watching this film and you didn't know what it was about, you'd be like, oh my god, like what is this opening scene? So it is basically the car accident, where she lays down in the middle of the road essentially and causes the car accident, and this is her way to eat flesh.
Well, you wonder, when you said about they go to the gas station to eat some shawarma, and the trucker comes over and he's rubbing Adrian's ear, and it's all a bit weird. But before that, whenever they're going there, they're on a bus, and the bus has to bypass a road accident. And I was kind of wondering after the sister caused the accident, I was like,
was that her?
Yeah, again, it's sort of to show, it's to show main character's curiosity about the dead body and kind of being drawn over to it. But I was also like, is there another connection there in that was this an intentional accident, or was it just an accident as a means to show us her fascination now with this dead body? And it's not just a morbid fascination, it's more there's potential food there being put in the back of the ambulance.
It's like letting a wild animal walk past the roadkill or something. I can smell it in the air,
Yeah.
And they could have made her nose sort of go like that, but then that would have been a bit too ginger snaps. It would have been
on the nose,
literally. By the way, Dana, we haven't mentioned your fucking stunning beard.
It's meant to be silver, but it's showing. I don't know. What's it showing?
This isn't a filter. Blue. We're not using a filter here.
I was going to say, is this in the comments below? Is it blue? Is it green?
It looked blue to me.
Dress me
initially, but no, I can't see any blue in it now. I can only see like a greyish, not quite as grey as mine, but getting there.
Here's the all natural grey. I just was bored.
I know. Are you going to do more of it? Are you going to make it more grey, or?
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe further down the line, go something else.
Does the carpet match the drapes?
Me and my big. No, I got a bikini wax.
You got a brilliant. Did you let your brother do
it? Exactly. Near took the skin away off me. Man, I still that was that the eye licking and seeing the skin pull away with the wax. I would say were probably two of the most sort of moments in this.
Interesting question here. Do you think this is a feminist film, or there's any themes of feminism in it?
No, well, I mean, it could be argued because the only characters that seem to be affected by this meeting gene appear to be women. It's the mother and the two daughters are the only ones implied to have this. I don't know what you would call it. They're like vampire ghoul type thing going on, but there's a moment in the film where I was kind of like, okay, that's an interesting tech, where they're talking about they're in the sort of toward near the start of the film, and they're talking about eating meat in the cafeteria, and it's not even that they're eating meat. They're talking about a fella's talking about the AIDS epidemic and the rumor that a man started by fucking a monkey, but what if the man was to wear a condom, and how would you treat the monkey and all this sort of thing. And she says the point about animals have rights too, and says about monkeys being able to recognize themselves in the mirror and they're intelligent enough, and surely if a monkey was to be raped, it would suffer the same as a woman who'd been raped. And someone at the far end of the table says, did you just compare a woman who'd been raped to a monkey who'd been raped? And she's just like, yeah. You know, she doesn't try to hold back on that opinion. That is her opinion. And I was kind of, that's really, like, that's an interesting take. And the fact that, you know, she's not shying away from it, it's her held belief. I was like, right.
And they sort of laugh at her, and she's like, well, why are we here? She's there because she loves animals, or she has a kindred to animals, and obviously her family does too.
Yeah.
But yeah, they sort of do laugh at her a wee bit, don't they?
Mm-hmm. They sort of, I think, again, it's implied by all those who see her apart from Adrienne is that she's a freak, you know, and to have that opinion also makes her kind of freakish. But again, it's her that line of human and animal, and she basically has broken that line down and said, no, animals would feel and react in the same way that we do. They just don't have the means to put it out there the way that we do. Express it the way we do. Yeah.
It is an interesting take, and I think Ducournau, I don't think she's like a feminist filmmaker. I've watched interviews with her, and she admitted that people after watching this film tried to write a feminist review on it, and started to say things like, oh, it's so refreshing to see a female filmmaker write films like this about females, and be shocking and blah blah blah. She was just like, I'm just a filmmaker, like,
Yeah. I don't think necessarily that the same script could be applied to men, because there's nothing really in it that makes
I think sorry to cut you off, Danny, but I know what you mean. And I think that her idea is that all bodies are the same, we're all the same organisms. Obviously females and males look a bit different, and animals look different, blah blah blah, but we've all got the same kind of general functions. And I think that
we all taste the same.
We all taste. No, man, I know that sounds funny, but that is essentially a theme from this film, is that all humans are the same. Yeah, exactly, man. We're all fucking meat.
We're all meat.
We're just big slabs of meat walking about.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely themes explored about that whole kind of going to uni and doing the party thing and doing the sex thing. I think there is notions of that and the standards that women have to meet. The fact that her sister says, you need to be. He lends her dress, the party dress, and says to her about getting a bikini wax, and she tries to bring her up, make her cool, tries to make her part of the crowd so that she doesn't seem like a reject. I think she even says to her, you'll be a reject if you don't do this. So I think there is that kind of societal expectation.
But is that because she's trying to help her, or she's trying to help herself? And then does that introduce another theme into it of, like, selfishness and how people perceive her?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, that whole uni thing, it's all bullshit. Like, we know it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But it is very real and still goes on to this day. I'm sure it does in different unis. I never went to uni, like, because I'm a stupid bastard.
I did.
I'm a lazy bastard.
I went
to uni. You went to uni.
I went to uni, but I didn't get hazed or do any of that nonsense. Like, did a bit of drinking, but
is that because you did the hazing?
I was the hazer.
You were the hazer.
No, I wouldn't have.
Are we the bad guys?
Are we the bad guys? No, I wouldn't have bought into any of that shit. Like,
fuck that. Like,
even just watching it in this, I was like, we just all just leave well enough alone. Like, just go and have a few pints. Jesus Christ.
I know, mad bastards. I love that. I said I was watching some videos of Ducournau talking about the film before we did this call. Excuse me. And I talked about her relationship with the actress, and I love her. Like, I'm not in love with her, but I do love her. I just love the way she talks about film. I love the way she expresses herself. Love the way she talks about themes, and love the way she talks about her performers. And she said that she doesn't really give a lot of backstory to the characters, but what she does do is she loves movement. She loves the characters to move, little subtle movements that make their performance less subtle in a way.
I love all that.
You can see that in this film, like, I think.
The family relationship, I thought the family relationship, we don't really get too much about her mum and dad at the start. We know that the mum's maybe overbearing in the way she like approaches the dinner lady about the mashed potato. You know, the daughter's kind of like, leave it, man. She's like, nope, this is you know, what if you'd been allergic? Which again is interesting because you see that allergic thing play out later on.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, and then we get the dad who's kind of dismissive, but not really. He's actually, it turns out, he's just being kind of kept down by his situation. And when they're in the hospital later, that plays out a wee bit more until we get to the end and we've kind of realized what the real dynamic of the whole family is. And yeah, you're right. It doesn't give too much away. There's no real like explanation. It's just sort of played out really naturally for us, and it's.
I think that's that happens a lot with European filmmakers. They don't give you lots of exposition, you know, in comparison to like, you know, like kind of US or you know, casual films that you see all the time. There's very little exposition in this at all.
She was his niece on her dad's side with her uncle who was a murderer and lived behind a ghost house.
Flashback to whenever you were 6 years old, this happened, and it's, you know, and she does that with Titan. Well, there is a bit of a flashback in Titan, but you know, you don't know a lot about the character in Titan, and you don't know a lot about her family and the other characters surrounding her, and it's all about visual storytelling, which is that's what cinema is, and it's she's phenomenal at it, and
effective.
Just it's so much more powerful. I think whenever, you know, you don't get that whole thing where her sister gets arrested. You just see her sister in prison at the end.
Yeah.
And you don't even get a conversation. You just get her, you know, touching the window. And I love the fact
when she flips her off and then she's got the finger mist and she's just.
I know. And
that's a great one.
She puts her cheek up, and I think that was cheek and... man. That told me more than 20 minutes of, you know, dialogue back and forth talking about, oh, blah blah blah, did this.
Can you believe I was arrested after I ate a bit of that? No, here actually is the question.
Here we go.
Do you think the sister ate him alone or not?
Adrian?
Was it just her eating Adrian, or do you think they both had a wee nom on his leg?
No, it was the sister. I think it was the sister.
Just the sister. I love the moment leading up to that, and they've just had their fight, and they're bandaging up each other's wounds, and she walks out the room and she goes to lock the bedroom door, but just kind of leaves it, second guesses herself, and goes, "No, it'll be fine." And then it cuts, and it's her waking up to the sound of the horns as rush week is over, and all the students going out to the courtyard with their wee blankets on. And the music that is building up in that, and that's another thing in the soundtrack for this film, is the music and how it builds. It always seems quite sort of nice and soft, and then it just goes hard. Like whenever we get those reveals and those turning moments, it just goes for it. And again, the needle drops in this, like that song, the song over the mirror scene when she's making out with herself in the mirror and all. I was getting a bit of a Silence of the Lambs vibe from that, you know, goodbye horses. But yeah, the soundtrack and the music in this film is absolutely fantastic. And that music, as all the students are coming out wrapped in their blankets and all saying rush week, and she wakes up and she's speaking to Adrian and then pulls the blanket back.
I know. The score was done by a guy called Jim Williams, who did the score to a lot of Ben Wheatley films.
Okay.
Yeah, Kill List and Field in England, and well, I think he did them all actually, all Wheatley films, the earlier ones anyway.
Yeah.
But he also did the score to Possessor, which was a film from last year by Brandon Cronenberg.
Okay.
David's little boy. Fantastic film.
I
think that's a film we should cover on the show. I think that'd be a good chat to do that. It's an amazing film too. But the score is quite subtle. But then when you get the organ coming in, there's a real sort of weird organ that comes in, and it reminded me quite a bit of Candyman. You know, the opening titles to Candyman. It was that sort of like over the top kind of electro organ type thing.
The bit when she first starts like biting into her sister's finger, and that
was
really
it,
kicks off in that moment, and it's just like, bah, bah, bah.
It's like that point where it's like the point of no return. You can't go back from this, because the sister now recognizes. We didn't know at that point, but when the sister wakens up, she starts crying.
She looks over at her, and her sister's just sobbing, the tears rolling down her face, and you're like, oh,
it's a disease. It's a disease, but but it just talking about the disease part, because you mentioned the AIDS conversation. You know, that was a nice wee connection to, you know, the fact that cannibalism kind of is a disease as well, and that, you know, it's also an addiction, and it's hard to get out of. And I think Justine later on in the film, just we talked about that scene where she was under the covers, like, you know, it's without a lot of dialogue and without a lot of explanation, they really kind of bring the idea of coming off addiction, coming off something that you're addicted to.
It's a really, really toned down Renton in Trainspotting.
Essentially, it does have that vibe from it, and we don't really know what else she does. But it's interesting that you said that. Do you think that she was involved in Adrian's death too? Because maybe you're right. Maybe she was.
She had a wee tear. Now again, she didn't have.
She did have blood. She did have a wee bit of blood around her mouth. Did she not?
No, it's whenever she's kind of like rubbing his shoulder and saying his name and saying, you know, wake up, and then she moves her hand down, and then she gets the blood in her hand and she puts it to her mouth.
Yes.
But again, I don't know. It's one of those ones I was kind of watching it and I was like, pretty sure it's just the sister. But what if again in some sort of feeding frenzy she didn't even realize and had a wee herself?
Because you often hear about, you know, addicts when they're really deep into their addiction, whether it be drugs or alcohol or whatever, you know, they zone out. They go basically zombie-fied and tunnel vision. They don't remember, you know, and that's a reaction.
I remember thinking towards the end, and you know, that after you know, the two sisters are kind of cleaning off all the blood in the shower and stuff, you know, she's getting her sister cleaned down. And I thought in that moment, I was kind of like, right, are they going to run? But then I also kind of thought about the line that her dad says outside the hospital. So whenever they're at the hospital and the dog's getting the blame for eating the finger, and the dad says, you know, he's having a smoke and asks her, do you want to smoke? And he says, oh, you know, the dog's going to have to get put down once they've had a taste of human flesh. They could come back for more. And I was just like, someone's going to die. Like that line for me, I was like, someone's going to die here. But obviously the only character we knew at that time who tasted human flesh was Julianne. So it was kind of like, is she going to get put down? But obviously ultimately not. But it was just an interesting line that played out that I was like, oh,
it's a great line. I'm so happy that you because as we were talking about that, I was like, there was a line that I really wanted to say, but I'd forgotten to write it down. But that was it. That was the line that her dad said, and it's a correlation between humans and dogs. And why do we put animals down when they get a sniff of blood or flesh? But you know, and she's there thinking, fuck. I think it's a like a light switch goes off in her head as well at that point, because she knows, fuck, I am a cannibal. Like I need to sort this out. So it's a great moment in the film. There's also another moment in the film earlier on, after she has her rash and she goes to see the nurse, and the nurse is, you know, sorting her out and stuff. She's talking about it, and then the nurse has a wee story where she was dealing with an overweight child before, and she's talking about body issues and that kind of idea. And I think this is a theme that runs into Titan a little bit as well, where they talk about not being happy in your skin and that kind of thing. And that'll be interesting to see because I think that's a theme that Ducournau will probably continue to do in her next films.
There's one of the lines Alexia says to her near the start of the film, or no, it must be whenever, I think it was when they're kind of having their moment before the whole finger cutting off situation, and she says to her, oh, are you anorexic, or are you anorexic, because that'd be gross, you know. She kind of shames it, you know. And I just, again, something I kind of thought was interesting, because she's always trying to like make herself sick when she first eats the meat, and is there's quite a lot of gagging and stuff in this film. You know, there's that kind of revulsion to it, but then also then the desire to have more, which it's not really. That's more bulimia than anorexia, really. The desire to gorge yourself to the point of them being sick. But yeah, another kind of interesting
they're all
point.
diseases, like they're all horrible diseases. So, and they all affect the body in different ways. So I think she was just trying to tie that in.
Yeah.
With all that, especially at a school with these young people. Isn't there a classmate that she sees who's like, oh, if you put 2 fingers down your mouth, it's easier. So it's something that
it's probably when she comes in the toilet and
pulling the hair out of her mouth.
Yes. Oh my God. What that was another scene actually was absolutely true, because it doesn't seem to end. Like she's just bringing it out, and like, it's after she speaks to that kid professor who's like, "I'd like to see you fail," and she's like sucking and chewing on her hair while speaking to him, and then goes to the toilet, and the other one comes in and says, "Oh, it's easier if you do the 2 finger," and then she walks out, and the girl's like standing in the mirror smiling at herself. I was like, "That's what what moment I actually tickled me though, like really, really, really tickled me." Is whenever they first go to the hospital and the mum and her are sitting outside waiting for Alexia to come out, and she looks over at the old man with his walking stick and they kind of smile at each other, but then he does the thing with his false teeth. He like goes with false teeth, and she kind of is like, ugh. And
what's sat there for it?
He starts giggling to himself, and that cracked me up.
I know. I was kind of thinking, why is that there? But obviously that's just to sort of bring you down a little bit.
Moment.
And that's just before Alexia comes out, and you see that her finger's now gone. And she does this thing where she goes to bite her finger and she realizes it's not there, and she does it with the other finger.
Well, again, really like just a subtle thing, but just
But I thought that was a humorous moment. It was a lighthearted moment to sort of bring you down, and I think we probably needed that moment because it was getting to a point where it was like, fuck.
It was just so like random though as well. Just his reaction to her almost, because she doesn't really find it that funny, but he's pure tickled by it, and it tickled me. It tickled me.
Tickled you, fucking hell. But anyway, so amazing film. Really, really enjoyed it. Like, I would, it's going to be a highly scored film on my letterbox list.
Yeah, I think basically we've kind of gone through the whole film and basically hit every point through it. I don't think there's ever really a dull moment in it. Like there's no point where I was kind of like I'm a bit bored, or it just has
absolutely not
consistent moments.
I think because I knew I had an idea of the kind of film it was going to be. In a sense, I didn't know what's going to happen, but blah blah blah, you know what I mean? And I was kind of tense, and I was kind of on the edge of my seat, even just during random scenes in the classroom and stuff when you didn't think anything was happening. I just knew that, right, I'm not going to relax too much here because I know something's going to happen in the next scene or the next scene after that, and I just keeps going and going and going, and it really keeps you hooked. And I think that's a testament to Ducournau, and obviously a testament to the actress as well, who, as we've said, is fucking amazing.
So good. I must watch. I'll have to watch her newer film.
Who watched Titan?
Now that I've seen this, I'm kind of like, I'm ready for another one.
To be honest, don't read too much about it.
No, I haven't. Just again, what you've sort of said is about as much as I know. So
I tried in the review that I wrote on for the website. I tried not to write too much spoilery stuff, but obviously if you've read the review, you've got an idea of what it's about. But if you get a chance, go and watch Titan. You can watch it in cinemas, or I think you can rent it as well. I'm not sure, but watch it and then go and read our review on the website. It's www.thefrightclubni.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yes.
Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram at the Fright Club NI. Tell all your horror peeps about us. Share this video. Share your opinions on Titan and Raw in the comments below. Tell us what you think the themes are. What was your favourite scenes, and what was the scene that made you go, fucking hell? Because there was quite a few in this one. The hair scene, I'm really glad we spoke about the hair scene, because that was the one that really
I'd almost kind of, I think I was focused that much on wanting to talk about the eyeball scene that even the hair scene had sort of skipped my mind. But no, that was dirty. It was going on for so long. It's one of those things, where like I'm grossed out, but then it keeps going. You're like,
you're right. It did. If it had been cut by another 10 seconds, it maybe wouldn't have been as bad. But the fact that it did feel prolonged, it just was like, where is this coming from? Like, surely she hasn't eating this much air? Like, where's it coming from? But yeah, great movie, fucking excellent movie. Really happy that we watched it. And thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Monday Night Frights. We'll be back in 2 weeks, remember? Every 2 weeks this season with another episode of Monday Night Frights. Go subscribe, like, and share this, and check out the website, all that good shit. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And leave all your comments in the comment section below. But for now, that's all we've got time for. As always, stay safe. Take care. Bye.
All right.
I'm off to eat some raw chicken. Danny's off to fist a cow.